It will take, I think, a minute or, like a couple seconds for people to come in. Hello, everyone. I'm going to start us off. We are here today. I'm Dr. Christine Lee. I'm a clinical psychologist, and I call myself procrastination coach online. And today I have the very distinct pleasure and wonderful pleasure of having this conversation live with my dear friend and colleague, Rita Black, who is a clinical hypnotist and an expert in weight management and other things, including smoking cessation, behavior change, and she's just a pro through and through. So, welcome to those of you who are here with us live, and thank you if you're watching us on replay. Our purpose tonight is to just get you familiar with Rita's work, and I'm going to describe my experience being one of Rita's students and coachees, and then we're going to learn a bit from Rita as well. So, Rita, welcome to the live stream. Thanks for being here.
Wow, Christine, what a great welcome. I'm happy to be here. I'm excited to have this discussion with you.
Yes, yes. Lovely. And we have, I know, a wonderful group of people who are interested in the work that you do. I know weight management is perhaps the hottest topic there is. And for me, I'll start with my story. I have never been someone who really struggled that much with weight management or with food, my relationship with food. I consider myself very lucky in that regard. However, the COVID years really, I think, did a number on me and pretty much everyone else. According to my doctor, who I told him that I had gained 20 pounds, and he said, "Well, Christine, it's COVID-19." And I just thought it was a very funny joke. But the fact of the matter was, I had gained at least 20 extra pounds during those few years. And Rita and I have been working together. She invited me to join her program, Shift Weight Mastery. I had been thinking of doing that very thing anyway. So the timing was right. And a few months ago, I joined in. And I want to say that immediately I learned a few things about me and my relationship with food and weight and the whole thing. The first thing is that I realized I had been pretty much massively overeating without realizing that I had been overeating. I've told Rita this in the past, but it was such a big wow, like kind of mind blown moment, because knowing that was the beginning of my being able to find a new route to healthier eating. That just it was just knowing the facts is so helpful. Now we all kind of love food, or many of us really just have this pure love of food, but I think love of food is not enough. We need to actually have some education about what we're eating, how we're eating, the calories that are involved, patterns of our behavior, patterns of eating that will help you to feel more stable and healthy. And I learned all of those things right away in Rita's program. Rita, do you have anything to say at this moment? I could go on. I will go on, but I'm going to have Rita interject here.
Yes, I am. Something just came on my phone that I can't seem to stop. So I'm just going to turn it down. Yes. Well, thank you so much, Christine. Yeah, it's been a joy to have you as a student, I must say.
Thank you.
But I think the thing is that I know, Christine, you're a very educated woman, and you also, before you entered into as a student, you knew probably a fair amount about food. And a lot of people who struggle with their weight know a ton about weight loss. Like, it's not that we lack that information, but it's really what you're talking about is our relationship with ourself in relationship to food, and how that plays out in our mind, in the patterns, in the habits, in our beliefs about ourselves. Now, I know you weren't somebody who pre-COVID struggled with their weight. And I have had a lot of people come into my world who put on that COVID-19 20. I love that your doctor said that, and didn't struggle with weight before. I also know that a lot of people who come into my world didn't struggle until they got into the 40s or into their, premenopause, menopause time. But wherever we start struggling with weight, we start to create an identity around that, and our and I as because I know you work with identity as well, we get a self-identity like, "Oh, I'm struggling with my weight and I'm failing at weight loss." And there's it's kind of a stigma, and then it's a self-imposed stigma that then we get stuck and trapped in. And it's painful, and then we don't wanna be in that stigma. We try to escape and lose weight, and what has happened with a lot of people, I find it just like a cultural phenomena or an epidemic, is that people know how to eat. There's so much information out there about weight loss, if you could get any YouTube video and learn about how to lose weight. But the key is isn't about the knowledge, it's about application, and people have gotten into this habit of being good on a diet or being good on a plan or a regime, then getting to a certain what I like to call a struggle point, whether it's the weekend, whether it's coming home frustrated and stressed out one night, whether it's going on a vacation or whatever, and they're like off the diet, and then they're like, "Oh, well, screw it," and then they eat whatever, they go really off the diet, and then they have to pull themselves together and get back on the diet, a different diet. And then what that creates is this sort of repetitive, habitual pattern that people get stuck in because and it's like this on or off, all or nothing, good or bad thinking. And then that perpetuates negative thought processes about ourselves, right? Oh,
Yes.
I can't get consistency. I have no willpower. That's not necessarily true. But what happens is that, our mind, when it, and I'll just explain a little bit about hypnosis and how hypnosis is why I use hypnosis, how I started using hypnosis. I'm going to go off on a little tangent, but just to bring this back to your question and your point is that I stopped smoking with hypnosis when, I was a pack and a half a day smoker. And I tried for many years to quit, and it was so hard for me. And then a friend of mine one day said, "Oh, well, I did hypnosis." And I stopped, in a session. And I was like, huh? Like, oh, because I always thought of hypnosis as like, this was in the 90s. Yeah, was it the 90s? Yeah, like late 80s, early 90s. And I've been around for a while. And I always back then I thought of hypnotherapist as like a guy in like a polyester jacket with the mustache and kind of creepy and with the whip out the watch and you're under my power kind of thing. So I was a little off put by the idea of hypnosis. I just was like, I don't want somebody to control my mind. But what happened was I was so desperate. I was like, "Well, if you did it, I'm gonna do it." You know how, like, when a friend of yours does it, you're like, "Okay, well, if you did it and you didn't have a weird experience, then maybe I can do that too." Okay. So I went and I became a non-smoker in one session, and it was completely different than what I thought because it was a very relaxing experience. I thought it was gonna be more out of body than it was, but my mind just became more open, and the suggestions that I was given helped shift me. They helped shift me on this in my thought processes in a way where I left that session, and it wasn't like I used to smoke. It wasn't like he removed smoking from my brain, but I was just walking down the street and I saw people smoking because a lot more people smoked in the late 80s, early 90s. And I was like, I just don't do that anymore. And that was so powerful for me.
Mm.
And so I had struggled with my weight up and down the scale since I was a kid. So unlike you, Christine, I was like a perpetual, my mother was obese, even though she went to Berkeley. She was a very educated woman. She majored in nutrition. You know, like she knew everything there was to know about food. My mother was brilliant, but she struggled so much with her weight and it was so painful for me. And then I started struggling with my weight. So I it was just a very hard and painful path and a world to be in. And so I got good at losing weight, but I would always gain it back. And I'm talking about taking off 40 pounds, but then immediately putting it back on. And it was like a horror show every single time. I was like, well, I'm skinny. And then I just started putting on weight. And it's that feeling of being out of control and not, and it's like, what's wrong with me? I know what I should be doing. Why am I not doing it? And, so mad at myself. And then when I did hypnosis, this hypnotherapist kind of educated me a little bit about the brain and really the crazy thing is why we don't do what we want to do a lot of the time. And no, I know you get into this too, Christine, is like a very small part. The conscious part of our mind is like really only about 12% of our mind. And that's the part of our mind that knows like what I should eat and how I should exercise and all the all the right things to do. But the other 88% is it wants things to stay the same. I hate to say it, but it just does. It's like, it's stuck in old beliefs, old habits. Even like I said, we develop this struggler identity, like people who procrastinate. They become I'm a procrastinator.
Right.
That holds them captive in this world that uh it doesn't serve them. I went from smoker to non-smoker and I shifted my identity, and that was the first thing to shift. And even James Clear in his book, Atomic Habits, he says, the root of all behavioral change begins with identity. So anyway, we have all these things, our beliefs, our habits. Food tastes good when I feel bad. I'm a bottomless pit. I'm a sugar addict. All these things sort of swirl together around in our subconscious mind. Night eating and patterns and reaching for the sleeve of crackers. And so even though we can restrict and use a lot of willpower, and usually what we'll do is we'll get in a lot of pain and we'll say, I'm fat, I want to lose weight, and we'll be willing to do whatever, drink the shakes, do the keto, do whatever it is. I'll do whatever because we're in so much pain, but we don't really approach it from a cognitively correct standpoint. We're in panic mode, and then we grasp for whatever we think is going to work consciously. And we might be able to lose the weight, but then, or take off 5 pounds or get to Friday, but the subconscious mind begins to impose itself upon us and we fall back into old patterns. And then we blame ourselves rather than saying, well, the brain is just kind of set up like this. So what I learned and what helped me and release 40 pounds and now have kept it. I just was telling Christine, I had my 59th birthday yesterday.
Yes.
um, so that's 28 years now that I've kept 40 pounds off,
Yeah.
is not from dieting and being good on a diet for 28 years, but from creating a life that allows me to live at my ideal weight. So in order to do that, I had to step into a new identity of somebody who was learning, because that's the only way you get any traction is learning, but to use my mind more effectively. So I started using hypnosis. And I also started doing a lot of research into long-term permanent weight management. And I really cultivated what I would say the skill set of permanent weight management. And so a lot of my hypnosis and a lot of my teaching is really based on uh, building out a new, like I call it fat thinking. And those are the old thoughts and beliefs that keep us in that struggle into thin thinking. And I don't mean like fat and thin, but I mean more like empowered thinking where you're setting yourself up for success and you're cultivating the skills and habits and beliefs of people who you're creating your own journey forward. And it really is a what I consider a hero's journey. So for me, I started using hypnosis and meditation, and my mind started shifting. And it wasn't, and I don't know if you experienced this as well. Maybe we can talk about this, is that you start to see food differently. It isn't good food or bad food, but it's like when I put that food in my body, how's that going to feel? And how's it going to help me like either feel good tomorrow or the next day? And I realized the me 40 pounds heavier on the scale versus the me, down the scale living my life uh, permanently, I was going to have to change my relationship with food. And I was going to have to, more importantly, change my relationship with myself because I believe that, and I don't know if you think this too, Christine, is that almost 85% of weight management is about sticking with yourself in that moment when you want to give up. And a lot about the process that I teach or the way I work with people is really working on cultivating that part of you that is resilient, that can stick through that moment where you're like, screw it. I'm going to, eat the donut and then eat 5 more and be like, yeah, no, we don't really need to do that. And that donut isn't going to really taste that good. So let's just keep on moving, kid. So that you're creating, because the relationship with that we do currently have with ourselves when we struggle is a very critical, vicious, almost abusive relationship. And that, so any transformation, and I know it's the same in the area of procrastination, right? We're so abusive, we're self-abusive. And any long-term change, you've got to change that relationship.
Yes. Okay, I have 100 things to say. So,
Good. Stop
first of all,
talking.
to our lovely audience, I hope you can see and hear and feel the loveliness of Rita. I mean, and really, I think the fact that she has all this life experience of someone who has struggled and someone who has become her own hero in her journey with eating and weight loss and weight maintenance. I think it's inspiring, but she's loving, but she's also like filled with joy about sharing this information. And I should say a huge amount of humor. She's really funny and really wise, I think. So all of these beautiful elements are in her work. And I think that is why she attracts as many people as she does. I think that's part of why she's as successful as she is in helping people transform their relationship, their personal relationship with themselves. Another thing is that, you do have to change your relationship with food to change the process. And for me, I feel like everything changed um, in 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 a great way, I would say. One of my symptoms, Rita doesn't tend to use the word symptoms, I don't think. I tend to use the word symptom
Oh,
in my
cool. I love the word symptom.
yeah, and my symptom was chocolate, or my trigger food has always been chocolate. I love chocolate. I still believe in the power of chocolate. But what I would do with chocolate is anytime I was in a store that had 4 walls plus, I would buy an entire bar and then go home and eat it in one, it's kind of hard to do, but I would do that routinely. And when I started Rita's program, I thought to myself, that how is this possibly going to change? And then I noticed after a few hypnosis recordings that I had listened to of Rita's, I realized that I would actually go into Trader Joe's and then out without even thinking about the chocolate, which I thought was nothing short of a miracle. Because, the chocolate's there. They have a whole row of chocolate now. And I was just really pleased with that. It wasn't that I had given up chocolate. It was that I now no longer had to be like a slave to that habit routine. And that, I think, is the power of hypnosis. I think that's the power of really deciding for yourself that you're going to focus on something that you want to shift in yourself, right? It's not an accident that chocolate was the thing I was able to shift. Chocolate was the thing I needed to shift in order to create some room for the rest of the things to shift. And
Yeah. I
so
think can I just speak to that point
yeah.
and then because I know you have a million things to say. But I think the way we perceive weight loss is because I hear it all the time, restriction and deprivation. I have to take stuff away. I can't do it. And diets have really hardwired us to be in that mindset. It is almost a PTSD trauma response that because people come I mean, we get I work with incredibly successful and lovely people who are highly functioning, and this is most the complaint most people have is like, my life works, but this one area of my life just I can't seem to get it together. And so this idea of deprivation and restriction versus what you were saying is you're creating something. The brain doesn't like stuff being taken away, but it loves to be create. And, for me, my journey was about not taking stuff away as much as creating a way of eating that I loved that didn't trigger me and that allowed me to live at my ideal weight. And that was fun to create because I owned it and I was making it. No diet was telling me I had a Christine, you should have seen this cupboard I had with all the diets that I had been on. Like, I don't know if because I know you didn't really struggle, but until the pandemic, but I've been on a lot of diets, and every diet usually will say, do not eat this or you will not lose weight, and do eat this or you will not lose weight. So there was always this, I had to go shopping and find weird ingredients and have them in my cupboard. And then, of course, I would fall off the diet and fail. And I would just shove them into this cupboard that I had of all the cupboard of shame. And yeah, I mean, it was such a victory to just take it all out and go, okay, yeah, that's not me and I don't need that anymore. But, we all have our little cupboard of shame somewhere in the back
well,
of
about that element of what are you gonna eat, I absolutely loved the fact that Rita's program, Rita's idea, her creation does not involve food restriction, where really it is there's no food that is completely off limits, and there isn't even the feeling of restrictiveness in her program even though you will be watching and counting and tracking calories. So there's, you are changing things, but again, there isn't this feeling of negativity, of stress, of you're depriving yourself and you're missing out on everything.
Well, I think to speak to that, because I know probably a lot of red flags went up when you said counting calories, but what it is we're using calories and tracking from a cognitively correct standpoint because a lot of times as dieters we count calories like outside of us like 1200 calories and how is it going to be but how we apply it and we have a system in the shift where you really get clear on this is how much energy my body is burning a day. This is how much I need to do to release weight at a rate I decide. Nobody else decides this. I get to decide this. And because I've been doing this for over 20 years, it is it it, it works. But what happens is people start to take ownership of their body. They start to go, "Oh, my body burns this much, so I can eat." It's not like I'm saying because I think diets make it so arbitrary. It's like, well, eat 1,200 calories, and that seems like this thing outside of you versus like, this is what my body burns, and if I exercise, I actually burn more. Okay, I'm this unit heat, burning unit, but it also makes you really take ownership and love your body, and then you want to fill it with good things that are going to allow you to feel stable and nourished, not hungry or
Yes.
triggered.
Yeah.
It's a different it is a very, it's an ownership it's a cognitively correct right sizing ownership process that people are very tentative to get into, but then when they get into it, they're like, "I love this because this gives me ownership."
Yes. I thank you for stepping in there because I think because I didn't have years of counting calories, I think I threw that out there really too
Oh, no,
casually.
that's cool. I mean, it's important for people to understand that it's all a cognitive thing, and when we feel restricted and deprived, we're the wire to get out of there as quickly as possible. That's why a lot of people go off diets, is because they feel restricted and deprived.
Yeah.
And we have to really learn to work through that, and to like I said, take ownership and create something, rather than feel like somebody's arbitrarily taking something away from you because they said so.
Yeah. And then also the whole idea of that when you exercise, you actually can increase your,
Gas tank
your gas tank, right? And, that whole thing just worked so beautifully for me because I was already
for a lot of
pretty
people.
much an exerciser. Now I had even more motivation to exercise, right? I was just
Mhm.
going on basic life wellness tactics, and now I was thinking, "Oh, this is also a tool for weight management and weight
Yeah.
mastery." And so since connecting with Rita in this way, I've just my overall activity level has increased and improved and has become more meaningful that I feel like, you
Mhm.
know what, if I had the choice between moving and not moving, most times I'm going to move, right? And Rita's, I know, a walker, a joyful walker. And I have never really liked exercising in that way, but now I'm much more inclined to take the dogs out and do the walk and consider that just like plus, just gain for me, right? Hero's journey. Let's
Yeah.
try this. Let's see how I feel. And inevitably you feel better after working out and taking care of yourself in all these different ways.
I have a saying. I say, "You never regret having exercised, ever."
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
may resist, but you never regret it.
I have a different saying. I have a saying, with my patients, I say it's foolproof. It's kind of a foolproof
Mm.
mechanism to elevate your mood, get yourself out of a funk. It's, oftentimes like free, almost free kind of way to treat whatever is stuck, whatever is feeling low. um when you're feeling unwell, even, just energetically, it's such a powerful tool. And so all of this is really what Rita teaches. She teaches it with love, and to note that one of her my favorite phrases is that you're loving yourself down the scale.
Mm.
And I say to myself, if you're at a plateau moment where, you have a little bit of a time where you don't feel like you see the scale moving, well, then you just need to love yourself, right? Like, that's where the love comes in, where we're being patient. We're still treating our body and our food, with this beautiful relationship now that is different, that we've taken the stress out, we've taken the drama out, and now we're on a consistent process of loving ourselves down the scale, which I love.
Yeah, for sure. And I think also loving yourself in the beginning, because I think that's what I see is when we've been trained, our brains have been trained in this diet modality, we get very short-sighted, where I've just got to get the weight off ASAP, because I don't love myself as I am now. I will love myself 10 pounds down the scale or 20 pounds down the scale. I will allow myself to love myself. It's amazing how many people think that if they think they love themselves today, they're going to be more, I don't know what the word is, promiscuous, or with food. They're going to be like, oh, well, since I love myself, I might as well eat all this stuff. But actually, when you own and really advocate and love yourself, research has shown that you get more bang for your buck with regards to showing up for yourself, because you do. Because when think about it, if you are like, I'm a fat pig, and I don't have any willpower, and I don't have any, how quickly you're going to give up on yourself, right?
Yes.
I'm never gonna do it. It doesn't even matter. How many times do we say that? Doesn't matter anyway, because it's never gonna happen. I'm a failure, blah, blah, blah. And we have this internal voice that we listen to in our mind. But if we're like, I'm worth taking care of, I'm worth, uh, I believe in myself, I believe that I can show up for myself today, then you're starting a new relationship with yourself where, I mean, you would stand up for your friend, right? You would stand up for your loved one. And if if somebody was bullying them, you're kind of bullying yourself, and you got to stand up for yourself and say, wait, I'm worth it. I am capable, and I can just take that first step. So I think loving yourself down the scale starts with being okay with where you are today, knowing you're beginning a journey, but really also you don't have to hurry down the scale, because how many of us, myself included, have gone on crazy diets to be successful, like lose 20 pounds, 25 pounds. And we get the weight off, we still don't love ourselves, and then we kind of freak out and we have imposter syndrome, and we're like, and then we start eating, and then, we eat ourselves back up the scale. Or we're like, I thought I would love myself more. I've got to lose more weight because I still don't love myself. And really, so it is a journey of self-ownership and self-belief and self-advocacy and self-respect that is really going to be the long-term journey.
All right. Yes, absolutely. I apologize about my active dog in the background.
Oh, I look at him. He's so cute.
She's
That's exactly, my dog is much smaller, but that's exactly what he's like. Are
right
you gonna
now.
let,
Right.
yeah, are you gonna let me out?
I'm actually going to ignore for now because
Okay.
I have Jane in the comments. I don't know if you can see them, Rita. You probably
I
cannot.
cannot.
Okay,
Mm-mm.
Jane said, I need help today. Today did eat okay and walk 30 minutes on treadmill. I am trying to believe do this for me. I'm a great person, but my outside too flabby. I look weak. Food and stress can be the enemy. Those are the
Mhm.
comments. So
Mm.
Dr. Lee has a cute dog. Thanks, Jane. So
And he finally gave up. He was
oh,
like, "Okay, she's not gonna do this. Okay."
yeah, it's a she, and she's wonderful. She's lovely. Yeah. So what would you say to Jane?
Well, Jane,
Um,
it sounds like you took care of yourself today, right? So it sounds like, though, that you don't have faith or trust in yourself. And something that I would say is that the best way to start to build confidence, because I think that that's what is needed, is to do what is doable, meaning, it sounds like you were doing something that you enjoyed and loved, and to, what our brain will do, and I know you know this too, Christine, is that our brain will say, well, that doesn't matter, because you still probably are going to struggle the rest of the week, right? It, like, our brain doesn't acknowledge us for what we've done naturally. You have to kind of work at going, wow, look at all the things that worked for me today. How did that happen? Because the way you learn and the way you get it in your body, in your brain, is you start to ask yourself, like, what worked today? What worked for me and what patterns worked for me? And when it doesn't work for you, to not beat yourself up, to forgive yourself. I have a term, insta forgiveness, to forgive yourself so that you can stay connected to yourself and say, what didn't work for me? Because I love and appreciate myself. So that didn't work for me. What didn't work? So I can start to learn and start to self correct. Because my guess is, that the other parts of your life that work, you do that. You self correct. The part of your mastery isn't about, I think about my son, played piano for many, many years. He doesn't play it anymore, but he stuck with it because, I really wanted, I was like, I wasn't, the mom was like, you have to be great. But I was like, I just want you to sit through the tough spots so your brain, so that you can play that harder piece, so that you understand resilience, like being with yourself and appreciating yourself in that moment for what you're doing. You're sitting there in that hard moment, and it's really hard. And what happens is, when we're dieting, we get to that hard moment where our brain is like, it really would be so much better if we started again tomorrow because we'll be really, really good.
yeah.
But we don't want this feeling of like having overeaten just a bit or eaten that thing. And now I feel bad. It's just like, forgive yourself and go, this hasn't, like, this particular thing didn't work. What set me up for that? so that then, because you do start learning and you start not doing those things that don't work for you. But when we're perpetually starting over to tomorrow and being perfectionistic, we don't learn the lesson. We just said, that doesn't work. I'll be better tomorrow. Well, we might be perfect tomorrow, but the next day we won't. And we'll be in this pattern forever. And we're not learning what does or doesn't work for us and making things better. So, what I would say to you is look at what worked for you today, because today sounded like a win, and to acknowledge yourself for it. Say, wow, you did that. That you did that, because that will start to build the self-confidence. I hope I answered your question.
Yeah, I mean, Jane is also saying, "How do you develop a habit and stick with it?" And she says, "Okay, I feel stronger inside, but weak in this area of overweight. I eat because I'm lonely and bullied in many ways. I'm learning to ignore others." She was saying, "People tell me I'm pretty but too fat." And I'm gonna participate in the answering,
Yeah.
if I may, because I think Jane is right there, and really grappling with all the important issues, right? Getting herself on the treadmill and looking at these issues that are difficult issues. Um, and she said, I had to do this at least today. Yes, beginning the new behavior. And for me, I work with people on habit change and habit consistency. Is also what's on Rita's chart behind Rita, is that whole thing of identity, that we have to transform our identity from within. We can't wait until other people see us as beautiful and well and the whatever, however you're wishing to be seen. You have to see yourself from that identity, that the identity has to shift from within first, so that you can consistently do the habits and have everything be the beautiful masterwork that you're aiming for. Because if it's not, if you keep the identity of the overweight person, the person who doesn't stick with their habits, or any other negatively tinged identity, any positive behavior you create will have to be threatened by the identity, because our whole operating system, brain, body, energy, are all pinging back to our identity, our beliefs about ourselves. And so we really have to clear up and straighten up and enliven and enrich and invigorate our beliefs and identity that we hold, because that really is driving everything. I hope that helped, Jane. Jane says, "Oh, identity tips, good idea." Wonderful. So, yes, and I'm just gonna also offer that Rita has a wonderful masterclass that is coming up, where you can learn even more about the chart, about identity, about hypnosis and this process. And Rita, why don't you take over, and I'll put the URL for the masterclass, and then Rita can
Oh,
explain
okay.
what's coming up next.
Yeah, everyone. I do have a free master class that I am offering, and I think Christine put up the URL for that. It is called "How to Break Through the Weight Struggle Cycle So That You Can Release Weight Consistently and Permanently." And what we really get into are what I consider the three main sabotaging subconscious roadblocks that get in our way when we are trying to release weight. Um, and then we look at how to shift your mind. So, and simple shifts that you can begin that day, uh, beginning your journey of what I like to call weight mastery. Again, and it's something that you create. It's not something that you're trying not to do, but you're doing something. So I would say to Jane, you've already begun your journey. So good for you. And you should really commend yourself. We are also going to do hypnosis for weight loss in that session, because I love this. There's a really great session that we do, and I love doing it. And um, people are like, "Ah, did you record that? I want to listen to that again." It's a great session. So I wish it just to come and test drive hypnosis, because I think a lot of people have some false beliefs about it being magic or voodoo. It's not. It's a really relaxing process. I get people, who come to see me for smoking cessation or weight management in my office. And they're like, well, I'm really scared about it. And I was like, don't worry, it's going to be fine. You're going to be great. I gained their trust. We do the session. They're like, I I never want to leave this chair. Like I don't want to just do it again, please, please. This is a really, really great way to relax. So please come. We're also going to look at a 4-step process for starting your journey of weight mastery, like how to begin really the step by step. Because really, honestly, you have everything to be successful within you right now. But it really is more about just putting those pieces of the puzzle together in the right way and beginning to take those baby steps forward. And so, Jane, I would say, commend yourself on taking that first baby step forward. And I totally agree with Christine about, I'm sorry that you've been bullied, and I'm sorry that um, it sounds like it's been a hard experience for you. It's it's never easy when you're struggling with weight. I was called horrible names growing up. And then I was just telling the story this weekend. I had a bunch of girlfriends over and we had a vision board party for my 59th birthday. And I was telling them about like high school and how I was just teased and tormented. And even then, when I lived in the big bad city of New York City, oh my gosh, the names I got called. But then, but the journey that you go on of self-reinforcement, because Christine's right, like nobody, you could have a million people tell you, you look great, you look fantastic, you're amazing, but you're still going to have that voice inside you like, no, I'm not. No, I don't. No, I don't. Like, and unless you start to believe it and own it and be within yourself. And something I have seen people, and maybe some of you guys have experienced this with releasing weight and having people pay attention to you, is that it can either freak you out or it is nice. It's like, oh, everybody's paying this positive attention to me. But then they stop paying the positive attention because you got thin and then it became normal. And then you start to eat, like it starts to this whole other cycle. So this is why it's critical, everybody, that you begin with yourself and you begin with your relationship with yourself. I say it's not about the food on the plate or, what you're doing in the gym. It starts in your mind. So I hope you'll come to my free masterclass and learn more. We have so much fun, and it really is a good time. So, and if you have any questions for me, please, I feel free to join the masterclass, and then you'll get some emails. And please, hit respond on any of the emails. They'll get back to me and ask me any questions, or ask Christine.
Yeah, thank you. Jane she says she's reading the book Fast Like a Girl by Dr. Mindy Pelz. She says, I do not eat junk, but I eat at the wrong times. And this has accumulated fat over years of just very stressful times. When younger, I was thin till I had 3 babies in my late 30s. Eating and cooking was my only habit. Thank you for the tips. Yeah, these are life. We're living our lives, right? And food and weight are an integral part of who we are, how we are going about our days every single day, how we're creating our families, how we're creating our adult lives. It's very meaningful. It's very rich. And I really think Rita's technique and her love, it's really just a beautiful way to kind of say, you know what, I'm going to rewrite the parts that aren't working for me and
Mm,
that keep me leaning towards behaviors that aren't really serving me very well,
right.
right? They might, like my chocolate habit, it brings me a lot of pleasure, but it's also very complicated, right? And the end result isn't really great, right? I'm sure my if we were tracking my blood sugar, that would not be a good scene. But I was able to kind of calm that whole need to be attached to that old habit down dramatically, dramatically. And I feel like, some minor miracles have happened since I've been working with Rita. I want to add that, I gained the 20 over the COVID period, but I think I didn't have a way, even though I was an exerciser, of bringing the weight down or even stabilizing it. So in some ways, I've been thinking lately that one of the biggest things, the biggest pluses of working with Rita is that I had a way of stopping the increase. So forget
Mhm.
about like weight loss, which did happen also, by the way, but it was just like I just stabilized that whole,
Mm.
I'm gonna eat and then I'm gonna gain. I'm gonna eat and then I'm gonna gain. And that's what I was seeing for a couple of years. So that pattern just came to a halt. So I wanted to note that as well, because in case those of you who are listening, if that's happening to you, I just want you to know that there really are reasonable, sane, loving methods to use.
Cool.
Yeah, cool. And Jane says, wow. So thanks. Thank you both. And it has been very cool. So Rita, do you want to tell everyone the date of the
Oh
masterclass?
gosh,
The time?
sorry. Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you. Let's get into specifics, which the brain loves. September 19th, which is not it's next Tuesday, 9 a.m. Pacific and 5 p.m. Pacific time.
Okay. I'm
And
putting that in the chat. I did
and
that
if
correctly.
you sign up and cannot make it for some reason, it will be recorded and you will receive a replay.
Yes. And I'm going to throw my link in the chat again. So that you can, I believe you can click on it. For those of you who can see it in there, you can click on it and sign up for the free masterclass, so you get all the emails to remind you and all the information that you will need. And Rita is available. I'm also available for anyone who has any follow-up questions. I will post this replay so that you can watch parts of it again if you would like, or to share it with people that you love, people that you think could benefit from Rita's work as well. Rita, anything that you would like to say before we wrap up?
Well, I want to say thank you for having me on, Christine. This has been great. And,
Thank you.
those of you out there, if you are struggling, I would just say, take a breath and, um, turn down that volume on that inner critic and start to see that part of you that really is brave and courageous, and start to nurture that part and say, I sat on my scale. That my turning point was I was struggling with my weight. I lost weight. I got on the scale and I was down. Just this was this one random morning in my home in Santa Monica, California. I don't live in Santa Monica anymore. This was a long time ago. But I just sat on my scale. I began to cry. I was like, it doesn't even matter that the scale's down. I'm going to be. Maybe it's like Jane. Maybe it's like it doesn't even matter. I had a good day. It's like I'm gonna have a bad day tomorrow. It's not gonna be. I'm stuck in this place. It's so painful. And I just cried and cried and cried. And then it was just like there was this voice in me, and it was like, you know what? There is a better way, and you can figure it out, and we can do this, and you can. So, connect with that part of you that believes in you. And I will tell you, that is the beginning. That is truly the beginning of a beautiful, amazing transformational journey that, people are like, oh, dieting is hard and weight loss is. It's like, no, when you're coming from that place, it is the most fulfilling, the most self reinforcing journey you can be on. And I'm just take so much joy in helping people open that door and start, moving in that direction. Because when you move in that direction, that's when you see lasting change.
I'm fully behind everything Rita said. Fully agree. Yeah. Yeah. Well, thanks for the inspiring work. Thanks for all the work that you do, the heart that you put into it. Thank you for
My
being my
joy.
friend and my mentor, and colleague, my beloved colleague. All right, everyone.
Thank you.
Jane says thank you to both of us. Jane says, I need to transform and get my sexual quotient value reading higher. I don't know what that means, but if that
Sounds fun to me.
if that works for you, Jane, that works for us. Yes.
Yes, to
Yes,
sexual quotient. Let's get it up. Yes.
we're elevating all the energy. Carol, hi, Carol. Good to see you. And Carol says thank you as well. All right, everyone. Lovely. We're with you. Our hearts are with you. Be well, elevate everything you can, and certainly stay in touch with us. Ask us any questions that you have. The replay will be available soon. All right. Take care.
Thank you,
Rita,
everybody.
stay on for a couple minutes with
I
me.
will.
Okay. And everyone else, take care.